We are back with my first ever anime series. We are now on number 11. And this time we're going to be doing a shorter form one with only one season, and it is Erased. It's funny because I went to go watch this series, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to only watch like a little bit of episodes here and there and slowly get through it. Now, of course, I ended up binging the entire series in one night, because holy shit, it got you hooked from the start. It's a mystery thriller, and it does not shy away from that mystery part of it. So I am going to be talking about spoilers, so here is a spoiler warning before I jump right into it. I was really confused about Satoru's powers at first, because I was like, what's going on? He saw a butterfly, and all of a sudden, they were back like a couple minutes later, and he's talking about how he can only go back in time 1 to 5 minutes. And then, of course, by literally the second episode, that all changes, because his mom gets killed, and he gets sent right back to when he was a kid 18 years ago. And, like, the beginning part got really, really insane really quickly, because him and his mom are just hanging out. He gets a little revival. He senses something's going to happen. She notices a killer. And the killer notices her. And they knew each other. She recognized him. And he kills her later. And I'm like, holy shit. Satoru and his mom didn't seem to have a good relationship. But that all of a sudden gets fixed when he goes back in time. Because he kind of remembers how good his mom was to him when he was younger. And he corrects it. Which I thought it was cool that he's going back in time to fix all his past mistakes. Save the girl that was first killed when he thought he could have done something as a kid. And now he can actually do something. Figure out who the killer is, save the other girls, and it was just really interesting, because I never knew it was going to happen like that. Before he goes back to 18 years, he finds his mom dead, and the thing is, there was someone reported to the cops before he even got there, pretty much framing him for what happened. Like, no one even thought the question, oh, this guy just found his mom dead. No, he killed him. Not like he's freaking out because he just found a dead body and his mother. Nope, they just immediately suspected him, and he takes off. Which, first of all, that makes you look guilty, but at the same time, he was freaking out because he just found his mom dead, but the cops aren't helping, no one's really helping, and everyone's just blaming him. But luckily, when he gets sent back in time, he can fix all that. However, the first time he does it, everything goes to shit. I like how he's trying to befriend Kaio, because, well, she has no friends, he knows that she got beaten, and he wants to help her. And I feel like he was also partially falling in love with her at the same time, and he's like, get together, you're a 29-year-old. You shouldn't be embarrassed over a kid. And it's just like, well, I mean, he's a 29-year-old, and I was thinking as he's a 29-year-old, which is creepy, but at the same time, he's back in his original body. I feel like those feelings when he was a kid would still be in him. Like, even though his mind is 29, he's still a kid. So everything that's going on is still going through his kid body and how his kid mind would work, and especially because his original memories would be conflicting with his new memories, making him feel certain ways, which I thought was really interesting that he still remembered everything that happened before he made the changes to the timeline. Because realistically, in most stuff, that would just wipe those memories away. But I like how this worked. I mean, we never really figured out through the series how he kept his powers and where his powers came from. I thought it was a whole simulation. I thought there was a whole mysterious thing going on behind it, a different organization or something covering it up. But it wasn't. Like, originally, after he makes his friends, I thought Kenya might have been another revival person who was reliving a certain time or was there with him to help him, guide him, or to stop him from doing it. But that ended up not being true. He ended up being really good friends with Kenya, and Kenya helped him all the way through to help Kaio and the other girls. And then I thought that Kaio was in like a revival loop, so every time she died, she would start over again. Because she said her and Satoru were fakes, I assumed that meant that she was also a revival person who was living in like a death loop. So every time she died, it would be restarted. And that's why she seemed like she was just giving up and she didn't care. However, that didn't seem the case. She ended up dying a different way a day later in the first revival, and in the second revival, he ends up saving her. But it's like there were so many things where I was thinking, oh, this was going on, but this was actually happening. It was just, I was so confused, but also I was hooked in because I was taking theories, guessing stuff, what was going on. So I was like, who's the suspect? Kaio's mom and her boyfriend, Mr. Yoshiro, and Yuki. Yuki, he didn't believe the whole time, but Yuki did act really suspicious when he was asked about Kaio, and that threw me off. I'm like, okay, is he actually the killer? Is he the one that's been doing it? And then Mr. Yoshiro, he just seemed to know stuff when Satoru first asked him. However, like, it just seemed too convenient that he knew about her life, that she was getting beaten already, and that he was apparently doing something about it. And I was trying to figure out what was going on. I'm like, and then I kind of dismissed it and was like, okay, it's probably not him. And then later in the episode, after he ends up saving Kaio, he finds that Mr. Yoshiro has a glove box full of candy. And then I'm like, okay, that's kind of weird. Like, that seems like something, you know, obviously a pedophile or a kid abductor would have. And that's what I thought. I was like, okay, this is what's going on. And then I'm like, he seems too friendly. And then he seemed like he was hitting on Satoru's mom. And I'm like, okay, maybe he's not. Maybe he's just interested in his mom. And then I'm like, and then it just kept getting weirder and weirder and weirder. Because he's hanging out with the little girls, going to the thing. I'm like, something is off here. And then when we got to the part where Satoru gets kidnapped by Mr. Yoshiro, I'm like, I was fucking right. I was goddamn right. I was right. And I thought it was insane. It was really well done. This anime was so good. It was so well written. And like I love all the parts where Satoru would like say something. He's like, "Oh, I just said that out loud, didn't I?" I just thought that was really funny, like little funny moments in this very serious show. And like the whole part when he first goes back after the first failed revival after Kaio dies and he's still on the run. And then I'm not sure if it's pronounced Ari or Ari, but I'm going to go with Ari. And how Ari was with him and she's like a 17-year-old girl, he's 29. And I'm like, it's kind of a weird relationship. People are seeing them together. I'm like, that I don't get it. I liked her because she even believed in him. He goes to save her life after the killer, Mr. Yashiro, tries to kill her. And just so much shit was going on at that point when they were back in the future. And I'm like, there's so many things going on at this point. It is absolutely crazy. And then he goes back one more time after he sees the killer. He doesn't know who it is, but he sees the killer. And he goes back in time again to fix everything. And he's able to save Kaio that time. And then he has to save the other two girls. Which he ends up doing because he ends up becoming friends with the other one. And it brings them to the hideout. And he saves these girls. Which I thought was really well done. Because no one finds it suspicious that this boy is making friends with all these girls who seem to be lonely. Even though, well, Kenya did, but like other people didn't. But he just kind of said that they were playing superhero, which I thought was really interesting. After the point of Mr. Yoshio sending Satoru into the water, I definitely thought that something bigger was going on. I'm like, okay, if they killed Satoru, I thought he was going to do a revival to go back to prevent that, but he didn't. He ended up being put into a coma for 15 years, so he didn't even get back to the point in time he came from originally. But instead, now his mom is taking care of him his entire life. He has friends now, and they're all looking out for him. I also thought it was interesting that Yoshiro was also watching him through the entire time. He's keeping an eye on him, waiting for him to wake up. And then when he did, he was trying to figure out if he had the memories or not. And the only person that unlocked those memories was Kaio. And I thought it was really interesting and how they did it. There was like this big reveal of him realizing it, and he set up this whole plan to make sure that Mr. Yoshiro couldn't get away for what he did, even though it had been 15 years, so the statute of limitations were up. But they found another way of getting him. But like when they started episode 11 with the hamsters, I assumed it was like an organization that had been watching or set up Satoru to do all this stuff so that they were analyzing him and watching him go into this, like, I was thinking a simulation at first. And that, like, you know, seeing how the one hamster survived, and that was Satoru. But that ended up just being Mr. Yoshiro, who liked Satoru for that reason. It was him who was doing it after he found out that he could see the future and stuff. Which is I'm still kind of confused about some stuff, and I still thought there was something bigger at play. I did really like how they set everything up, where Satoru was like, well, you could have killed me at any point during this 15 years, but you didn't, so you need me around. And then he goes to kill himself by jumping off the roof. Yashiro stops him, and he's like, see, you couldn't do it. And Yashiro just lets go, so Satoru will fall to the ground, but he had a plan. His friends and mom had a inflatable set up so he could catch him, and I like how Yashiro was standing there like, he was about to jump, looks down, he's like, He realized he got, and so he gets arrested finally. But he gets arrested for attempted murder, because you can't really do anything else but everything else that happened prior. And at the end, it seemed like he was meeting Ari for the first time, again, technically, but I wasn't sure if it was actually her or not. Some people said it was, and they were saying that had taken place a few years later, so she was in her 20s by then, but I'm not sure about that part. But it's interesting, because weirdly enough, they had really good chemistry in the beginning, but I thought it was more of like, I thought it was less of a romantic relationship, even though a lot of people did, like his mom and everything. It's interesting. There's a lot of weird things in it, but there was also a really well-written anime, and it was just extremely good, and it hooked me through the entire series. I really enjoyed it. The race is a lot different from what I've watched already, except maybe Promised Neverland, because I felt that one was a little bit mystery, but this was more mystery thriller. Two different types, but it worked, and I thought it was really, really cool. I really liked it, and I'm looking forward to watching more like this. Something that keeps me on my edge of my seat, wondering what's going on, kind of questioning everything, until the final big reveal. This was one of the animes I got recommended when I first watched Demon Slayer, and I just hadn't gotten a chance to watch it because I kept watching all the big ones first. I'm glad I finally got around to watching it because it was really good. I can't wait to see what my 12th anime is going to be. Thanks for watching my 11th anime, Erased. I'm going to keep doing this series, and I don't know how long it's going to go for, but we will see. And if you guys like my anime series, make sure you hit the subscribe button, go check out the playlist down below, and I'll talk to you later, and let's watch more anime.